The year is 1587. Imagine standing on the edge of the world. Behind you, the violent, endless Atlantic Ocean. Before you, a continent so vast, so dark, and so unknown that it feels like looking into the mouth of a beast. This was Roanoke Island. 115 men, women, and children arrived here to build a new life. They built homes, they planted crops, they birthed the first English child on American soil, little Virginia Dare. They looked at the dense forest surrounding them with hope. But the forest looked back with hunger. This is not a story about colonization. This is a story about the greatest disappearing act in human history. A mystery that has haunted historians, archaeologists, and nightmare seekers for nearly 500 years. Because 3 years after they arrived, every single one of them vanished into thin air. To understand the horror of Roanoke, you must understand the isolation. There were no phones, no radios, no help coming. They were alone on a hostile island, surrounded by tribes they had already offended, running low on food and paralyzed by the fear of the unknown. Their leader, John White, made a desperate decision. He would sail back to England to get supplies and reinforcements. It was a dangerous journey, but necessary. Before he left, he looked into the eyes of the colonists, his friends, his daughter, his newborn granddaughter, and he made a pact with them. He told them, "If you leave this place, carve the name of where you are going on a tree. But if you are in distress, if you are being attacked, if you are dying, carve a Maltese cross above the name." It was a simple code, a signal of danger. John White boarded his ship, promising to return before winter. He didn't know that fate had other plans. War with Spain broke out. The Atlantic became a battlefield. John White was stuck in England, helpless, while his family waited on the other side of the ocean. He didn't return in 6 months. He didn't return in a year. It took 3 long, agonizing years before John White could finally step foot back on Roanoke Island. It was August 1590. The day was humid and still. As White's boat approached the shore, the crew blew a trumpet, playing familiar English songs, hoping to hear a cheer, a shout, a dog barking, anything. But the only answer was the sound of the waves crashing against the sand. White ran to the settlement. He expected to see smoke rising from chimneys. He expected to see children playing. Instead, he found a ghost town. The houses hadn't been destroyed or burned down in a battle. They had been dismantled, taken apart. The area was overgrown with grass and vines, as if nature was already reclaiming the land, swallowing the evidence of human existence. There were no bodies, no bones, no blood, no signs of a struggle. It was as if they had simply ceased to exist. Desperate, John White ran to a large wooden post that formed the palisade of the fort. And there he found the only message they left behind. One single word, carved deep into the wood. CROATOAN. He ran to another tree nearby. On it, 3 letters. C-R-O. White stopped. His hands trembled as he traced the letters. He looked for the cross. He looked for the sign of distress he had told them to carve if they were being slaughtered. There was no cross. CROATOAN was the name of a nearby island, home to a native tribe. White felt a surge of hope. Maybe they had simply moved. Maybe they were safe, living with the natives. But a violent storm began to batter the coast. The anchor of his ship broke. The crew threatened mutiny. They forced him to leave. John White was dragged away from the shore, staring back at the dark tree line, never knowing what happened to his daughter. He died years later, a broken man, haunted by that word. So, what happened? For centuries, scholars have argued. Some say they were killed by the Spanish. But why dismantle the houses? Others say they were slaughtered by the Powhatan tribe. But where were the bodies? A massacre leaves scars on the land. Roanoke was clean. The most comforting theory is that they assimilated. They realized no ship was coming, so they moved to CROATOAN Island, intermarried with the natives, and their bloodline dissolved into history. It's a nice story, but folklore tells a darker one. The local tribes whispered legends of spirits that inhabited those woods long before the English arrived. They spoke of a force that could drive men mad, a hunger that could turn a neighbor into a stranger. Some say CROATOAN wasn't just a place. It was a warning. There are reports from centuries later of native tribes in the area with gray eyes and fair skin, who spoke words of Old English. But there are also stories of a white doe, a spectral deer that roams the island, said to be the spirit of Virginia Dare. Think about the psychology of those 115 people. Abandoned, starving, watching the horizon for a ship that never came. 3 years of silence, 3 years of darkness. Did they turn on each other? Did madness take them before the elements did? Or did they walk into the forest, following a voice only they could hear, leaving their homes behind, leaving their clothes, leaving everything but that one cryptic word? Today, Roanoke Island is a tourist destination, but if you go there, away from the gift shops, and stand near the edge of the woods at twilight, the air feels different. It feels heavy. Archaeologists still dig there. They find small things, a ring, a piece of glass, a copper plate, but they never found the people. The lost colony didn't just disappear. They were erased. And the question remains, when they carved CROATOAN into that tree, were they telling John White where they were going? Or were they telling the name of the thing that took them? Some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be feared.